Welcome to Center Heist Productions, August 30th, 2023. Basically, we're at Center Heist Productions. Hit the like and subscribe below. We would muchly appreciate it. The episode is about exactly what it says it's about, projecting our young stars coming up, our young players, uh, prospects, and this is how we see it from my list. And I felt I had to address it because so many they talk about one or two players and they blow their tires up, and it's nothing a knock against the players. However, there are players that are totally being disrespected in it, and I felt the due diligence to come out with one to put set aside really what the Habs look like with their young prospects. So we're going to start off with the players we see in the future that make it for the Habs within the next couple of years. This is how we're seeing it, and we're going to put a cuts part. And it only when I say cuts, it just they're good enough to make the NHL. Some of them, but there'll be players that we will be able to trade for other assets to help us out in the future. So we're going to start off. I'm going to start off with my two dark horses, and I'm going to start off the main player. And the first player out of our prospects that is ready is Emil Heineman. Not getting the credit he's due. People forget he had made the team last year. If it wasn't for his injuries, he had been there. And I guarantee you, he makes the team because he would have been ahead of Pinard and Elonen had he have been in Laval to fill those holes when injuries came. So that's my first projection, and he's being disrespected. A lot of people just, oh, he's the third. No, he's not a third or fourth liner. He is a second or third liner in the future, and possibly, I think actually he could really steal second line timing because I think he will put up better work ethic than guys like Josh Anderson. I think Josh Anderson and Armia and Gallagher are guys that have something to worry about. And Jake Evans has something to worry about with the center players. And Jake Evans should be gone. I hate to say it, but he's expendable now. We got too many good young centermen. Instead of keeping them out of the lineup, get rid of them and open up another space with somebody who's actually, because he hasn't been the same since Mark Scheifele. He had a down year. So I guarantee you, Heineman's going to be there. He's tough as nails. Yeah, he's a physical body. He drives the net, and he's got one hell of a shot. Something we're lacking in the lineup in Montreal drastically is somebody with a good shot, and he's got it. So there's no doubt the tenacity I see this player play with, and the way he came to Laval right around the playoff time, and he put up points immediately. He was showing he was a step ahead of the rest. Start giving him. There was too many smaller podcasts like my own that were not giving him credit, and I wanted him to have the credit. So that's my first dark horse, and there's no doubt he's number one on the first guy, the most ready to make Montreal is Emil Heineman. Mark my words. Write it down in your calendar that you've seen it here on Center Ice. Next, dark horse at number two is Adam Instrom. This guy's just come out of nowhere and looked fabulous when you see his play. He's definitely NHL material. There's no doubt. Whether who wins the battles, I think this is the dark horse. I don't see him on Montreal this season. I see him cracking the line next season. Maybe a year in Laval, and then off to Montreal. However, if there's injuries, he gets a crack. He could stay. This is the dark horse on defense that's going to cause some issues on that right side, and I think it's actually what makes Barron expendable. So that's my number two dark horse. Now we're just going to go into the rest of my players that will make Montreal in the next couple of years. However, I didn't put them in any specific order other than first couple guys maybe. Pinard will make the team, I believe. He showed great signs, as we know. So I think he will make the team, and I see him as a third liner, but he'll be able to. Our team is loaded with a lot of potentially players that aren't quite there yet, and third liners really. So you can rotate these guys as they play. So I see Pinard at number 3, and I see uh, Yolonen at number 4. Now this gets tricky because Yolonen Yolonen could easily fill the void of Jake Evans, and this is why I think we should get rid of Jake Evans while we can, because we risk the chance of losing a talented player like Yolonen for Jake Evans. It's not worth it. Not at the stage we're at. Jake Evans' ceiling is he hasn't been the same since Mark Scheifele. It showed last year, and there's teams interested in him. Let them take him. We got enough center depth now. So that I say becomes tricky. Do you send Pinard down because if you put Yolonen on the waivers, you're going to lose him, and that's my big concern. So I hope Hughes and Gordon are smart enough, and I think they are, to figure out how to organize that properly so that we don't lose them. So that's 3 and 4. Pinard and Yolonen, I think, could be on Montreal's roster this year up front. Then we get to number 5, which is Logan Mailloux. And I think a year in Laval will help Logan just fine. And if he gets a crack, he may shock us. He may make the team. Uh, but I think a year in Laval will help him just to adjust to the pro level. And he'll definitely make the team next year. He's definitely going to get cracks if someone gets injured. So definitely going to make it in the future. He's part of the future plans, no doubt about it. Number 6, I got Barron, and this is a wild card because Barron could actually be on my cuts end. He's kind of in between. It's up to him whether he can get his physical game because he had problems last year with the guys that he was competing with. He's going to have bigger problems this season. I think he should start in Laval. It helped him last year, and it can only aid his development. So he's a wild card on this list. I'm not really sure what's going to come out. It's going to be up to him, really. Just too many good defensemen. And then, of course, at number 7, we know this guy will make the Montreal Canadiens. It'll probably be next year. He's just got to beef up. I think a year in Laval would do him great, and that's Owen Beck. And we know the Montreal Brass sees high things for this guy, high regard for him, and it's because he's going to be your permanent third line center, the shutdown guy, your Carbonneau, your new version of Carbonneau and the Patrice Bergeron type of player. And that's why I see the hype on him, and I think he's going to be deserved of that role. And he will make the team, but it won't be this year. That being said, next we go to another guy who's been given a lot of flack by a lot of our fans, and it's undeserving, it's uncalled for, and you're not taking into consideration the things that have factored into this. Philip Machar is a way better hockey player than he's getting due credit. Oh, he may not. He will make Montreal. It, whether it's this year, I think it'll be next year, or actually the year after. He's got it next year or the year after. I think a year and one more year in the juniors will help him because he was thrown in. Like Slavkovsky, had to get used to the North American game and ice surface, and he was put on a really crappy team too, which is similar to Slavkovsky's situation in Montreal. Excuse me. That being said, this guy is definitely making Montreal in the future. You mark my words. He's my third dark horse. He's not this year's projection. Him and Enstrom aren't. Enstrom will be next year, but I think Philip Massar will be the guy the following year. And he could be the piece that Slavkovsky needs to really move his game. And this kid's got a lot more talent. He showed it in rookie camp, and the flashes were there. You put him on with some talented players, and him being used to the North American game, you're going to have a different outcome. This guy's super talented. He's got a lot of talent. So that's my number 8. Then we go to the sure thing on defense, which I just totally disagree with the critics. I had my doubts in the beginning. He's starting to size up height wise, so I don't see him no longer being that big of a problem of making the NHL. However, he does got to beef up, but his talent is far superior from what I can see in his game. I don't even know what these critics are talking about. He said he's got skating back to his own end problems. I didn't see that in any of the highlights myself, so I think that's just bogus. He's going to make the Montreal Canadiens, and he's going to be one of our top four defensemen, in my opinion, if his game can translate, which I'm hoping it will. Unfortunately, I just wish people would stop pumping his tires to the degree they're pumping them, because he's playing, in the U.S. system, and the NHL is a lot different. However, I do think he will be. Just from seeing our rookie camp, he was so far ahead, him and Mayu, and yeah, Reinbacker and Missar. So that being said, Hudson will be a sure thing. So I just put, and I don't have any. When it comes down to after 3 and 4, it's there's no real exact order. It's just guys that'll make the team. There will be a part of the plans of Montreal. He's definitely a part of the plan. And then you got Reinbacker. We know he's a sure thing. He's going to be a solid defenseman as well. And then on my 11th guy and the final guy on my list is Waugh, because it's a wild card the other way compared to Barron. I think with Waugh, as long as he addresses his skating, he's got the IQ and the moves and the work ethic to do so. He'll be a Montreal Canadian. I think he's going to pull it off. I think he'll address his skating issues, his speed. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but I think a year in Laval would do him good. Although he does threaten to make Montreal's lineup if he's done a lot of work over the summer. You never know. But I do think a year in Laval would help him immensely. And so that's the way I see the all the guys that are going to be part of Montreal's future. Then we come to the players. It's a shame because there's a couple of them, especially the defense. Defense is in a predicament where they're all NHL caliber, and they're just going to have to trade these guys off and get something in return for them because you just can't hold on to them all. So, with that being said, we're going to start though. A couple forwards on there too, and the first forward's going to shock people on my list that I see Montreal having to trade, or he stays in Laval and never makes the NHL. I would trade him, try to get something for him. He's got flashes of, and it's a pretty good talent. However, he reminds me too much of Charles Houdon and his size. We just got too many small guys now. We don't need any more. So I think he's expendable, and Sean Farrell, that is. And I think our best bet is to trade him off and get something for him while we can. Well, we've heard the news that we got to start thinking about getting something for some of the players because time runs out on them where their value goes downward, if not. This is one of the guys I would, and Kidney, Riley Kidney. I think, and when we first got him, there was a bunch of hype, but as we watched last year, his game just seemed to lose something to it, the urgency to it, and good kid. However, I do think he's NHL material. I think he'd be good somewhere else. We just need really we need to stick to size now. Now that we got our few small guys, we need the rest of the guys for the future need to be bigger. So I think he's expendable because of that. That'll be right, Bradley Kidney, number 2 on that list, and then William Trudeau and Jordan Stubble. It's a shame because these two defensemen are very talented. They're NHL caliber. There's no doubt that they're going to be NHL caliber in their future, near future. At that, they're going to push for a spot even this year. However, I think the players above them are so good that they're going to have to trade these two and just get something for them because these two will be playing in the NHL. And then our final spot of the list that we looked at people that were more recognizable. After this, there's still a few more, but they're not as highly touted. And our last person on the list is Caden Primo. So there should be no surprises. He will not make the Montreal Canadiens. He can't push out Montembeault. He can't push out Allen. He can't even push out DeSmith. We've seen he's had plenty of chances and so many in Quebec area pumping his tires, and we've seen what Caden Primo is. Sorry, you can say that he got them into the playoffs. You can say that. However, if you look at his stats from the prior year, his stats went down in Laval last year. So, if anything, he showed a decline. And unfortunately, he won't make it. He'll get put on the waivers, and somebody will pick him up. So Montreal will most likely lose him, and somebody will take a chance and see if they can develop him a little farther. Which I say go ahead because he's not going to cut it in Montreal. Maybe he does. Maybe he surprises someone and makes an NHL team elsewhere where there's less pressure on him. But he definitely can't handle the Montreal uh, fans. He just can't handle that top, the original six in Montreal being as highly touted there. He just can't handle that type of pressure. He's not mentally strong enough. So that's the end of my list. And I'll mention one other guy that was just, this is not on the rookie list, and it's someone to keep an eye on, and it's Elias Anderson, because I say him and Ilonen are perfect candidates to push a center out of that bottom zone like Jake Evans. This would be the time to trade Jake Evans. If Edmonton had been rumored to want him, trade him. Open up that spot. We got enough depth now at center. Trade him. Get something for him. This keeps Ilonen in, and we get to see, because this is definitely going to be Elias Anderson's last opportunity in my book to make the NHL. This is kind of his last crack at it. And he could shock people because he could be perfectly ready to step into the fourth line role right now. So let's see what happens with his experience. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not that crazy about this kid. When I found out he was the kid that threw the silver medal, that type of stuff doesn't impress me. But let's hope I do believe guys need second chances. So let's go from there. That's all I say about that. And I say if we're gonna, let's unload Evans to Edmonton. That would be, this is just from my mouth is what I'd like to see. It's not actuality. It was rumored a few weeks back. I'd like to see it happen with Edmonton wanting him supposedly. That was the rumor. And throw in Smith, because I think if Edmonton's actually thinking they could use another goaltending for their goaltending depth, a goaltender, I think Smith would be the perfect guy. So let's drop two players, and if we can throw in wishful thinking Armia, that would be great too. Open up another spot. Who knows? Maybe I get a big package deal going. Anyway, thank you for joining me. We just wanted to give you that as we're all getting excited because now preseason is very close at hand. We're getting excited. I'm sure the boys are all working hard in the arenas now for prepping. All right. Thank you for joining me. Where's the puck drop first? Here at Center Hice. Please hit the like and subscribe below. Tell your friends about it. Leave your comments because I'd be interested in what you think. This is all, every podcast you go to, it's our opinions. So they're more than welcome here. And thank you for joining me. And we will catch you in the next episode. God bless you all.